I think I count 5 members here of 11.
So we don't have a quorum yet. We were on the House floor. I do apologize for the delay, and not everyone has gotten back to their offices yet.
Licensure compact. The bill establishes specified procedures and requirements for a social worker to practice under a multi-state license in a member state. It also establishes the composition, powers, and responsibilities of the compact commission and requires related and establishes requirements related to the oversight, dispute resolution, and enforcement of the compact. The bill is contingent on similar legislation being enacted in 6 other states. There was an amendment that was distributed from the sponsor, and that reverts several provisions in the compact that were changed inadvertently or because of DLS style requirements back to the original text of the compact.
Okay. Is there any discussion among the members? You must raise your hand because that electronically, please, if you're a member, because otherwise I won't know that you are desirous of speaking just because you're on the 3rd page, or you're not, certainly not on the 1st page. Okay, is there a motion on the amendments?
Move the amendments.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none. Is there the amendments? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
That motion is favorable. Motion favorable with amendments is moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, and I assume, council, you are aware of which members are here and voting? Or do you need some assistance with that? Or,
As long as it's unanimous, we're fine.
okay,
If there starts to be, some people opposing, we just need to make sure that it gets called out or that we see the hands being raised.
Okay. Okay, second bill is House Bill 146, Health Occupations Boards, Reciprocal Licensure and Certification. This is a departmental bill. Council?
So yes, this departmental bill authorizes any health occupations board that does not otherwise have statutory authority to do so to adopt regulations establishing reciprocity for individuals who are licensed or certified in another state that also offers similar reciprocity to individuals licensed or certified by the board. There was an amendment that was distributed, that was requested by the boards that they would like the words or jurisdiction struck. And additionally, there was an amendment distributed from Dan Doherty at the Dental Association.
Okay. So has that amendment has also been provided to everyone? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's vote first on the amendment that I am offering as requested by the board. Is there a motion?
Move
on
the
that
sponsor.
amendment?
Move the sponsor amendment.
Second.
No further debate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Doherty, if you wish to speak to your amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me.
The Dental Association is very much in favor of portability of dentists from state to state. And the bill, as it applies to the other boards, is in a very clean status. Dental Practice Act has a unique provision compared to some of the others. It is a provision that basically is licensure by credentials. The provisions allow the board to issue a license to a dentist from another state, essentially under the same criteria that most of the reciprocity bills function. The problem is that particular piece of the statute is a one-way door into Maryland with no opportunity of Maryland dentists being treated in the same manner in any other state. So we really want to have reciprocity applied to dentistry, dental hygiene, dental auxiliaries. And it's in conflict with this particular provision because there's no motivation for another state to enter into a reciprocal agreement when their dentists can come in or their hygienists can come into Maryland without having to agree to reciprocate. So my amendment essentially takes the licensure by credential provision. That's the terminology that I use. It's not labeled that. And changes it to a reciprocal provision. And then there is a second section under that that's unrelated to this that is moved to a subsection 3. And a new subsection 2 is put in that would allow the board to develop regulations for reciprocity for dental auxiliaries other than hygienists and dentists. So very simply, we're trying to encourage reciprocity. We're trying to encourage that dentists not only come into Maryland, but dentists be allowed to go out. We think this is a more viable approach than a compact where under the one that is currently proposed and being considered by other legislatures, the board would not be licensing them, therefore their jurisdiction would be limited. Under reciprocity, they have full jurisdiction to regulate the dentists who come in. So I would request that you give a favorable consideration to this amendment.
Wishes to speak for the department.
I would, I'm on the State Board of Dental Examiners. Would that suffice?
Are we,
I'm not sure the protocol here.
I don't hear anyone
It's a
else.
departmental bill from the board, so you're one representing one of the boards. I think that suffices.
Okay.
Right.
Please proceed.
As much as I would like to, I don't like to disagree with Dan, the guy, but the board has looked at this. Our concerns with it, in part, of course, there's no benefit to a reciprocal state applying a dentist applying into Maryland because the requirements basically are the same as anyone coming in trying to come into Maryland. But the bigger issue is that given these amendments, according to our attorneys, it ties our hands in terms of trying to put together other avenues of reciprocity. And we feel that the way it's set up right now, that with these amendments, that it would not provide us the flexibility. It doesn't give us any options in terms of how we might structure any kind of reciprocity. And consequently, we are opposed to the amendments.
Chairman, if I could reply, please.
From the board.
There is no avenue within the statute that allows the board to have any kind of reciprocal arrangement. The only thing that is in our statute, it allows them to license someone coming in. It's a one-way street. If there are other methodologies for doing portability of dentists from state to state, it would require additional legislative enactment. We do not feel that this amendment does any harm to any future action, and it doesn't impede any other reciprocal approaches because there are none.
And so the department remains in opposition.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
The sense is that it limits our ability to, it takes away flexibility on our part to negotiate these things. And we think that's
Okay.
inappropriate.
Is there discussion or any questions from the members of the subcommittee? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Cullison, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I'm wondering why, if this bill is designed to open up those reciprocal agreements for all healthcare providers, why it would be different for dentists? I'm missing something. So Dan, Mr. Chair, if Dan might respond,
Certainly.
not sure why it's different for dentists as opposed to other healthcare providers.
The reason why it's different for dentists is there is a section currently in the Dental Practice Act that allows the board to license a dentist applying to come in the state under basically the same kind of credentialing that would be required under reciprocity, but it's a one-way street in. If you leave that in place, reciprocity is basically a nullity because there's no incentive for another state to grant reciprocity because their dentists and dental hygienists can come in without them doing anything.
Okay.
We want to be able to have the board enter into agreements with, Delaware, Virginia, et cetera, as the physician board has, and have dentists going into those jurisdictions or being able to even go as far away as California or Hawaii. But if there's no incentive for that state to enact reciprocity, our dentists are not going to have that portability from Maryland to somewhere else.
Mr. Chair, may I follow up?
Certainly.
Maybe Lisa, you can help me and I hear what Dan is saying around, really the incentives for reciprocity. Do those incentives exist? Or what I also heard Dan say is the Board of Physicians negotiated this reciprocity with other states. Therefore, under this proposed statute, the dental board would have the same ability to do that. Am I correct or no?
That is my opinion, Madam Vice Chair.
I'm not sure what the Board of Physicians has done. The dental board might know. Also, Robin Elliott has her hand raised. I don't know if she can add anything to that or not.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Robin Elliott.
Good morning. On the Board of Physicians question, they are here and they could speak to it. But just my understanding is that they negotiated a reciprocity agreement under their existing statute that is more like a super expedited process between DC, Virginia, and Maryland. But I did want to flag, we represent the Maryland Dental Action Coalition, a group of FQHCs and school-based health centers. And we view the amendment differently. And we appreciate Mr. Doherty's focus on the dentist in Maryland. We're viewing it as potentially, though, blocking dentists and dental hygienists from coming into Maryland, where we don't have a reciprocal agreement. We have a shortage, and so are very unclear as to the wisdom of a policy that doesn't allow qualified people, dentists and dental hygienists, to come into our state, just given the shortage. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask the relevant parties to meet and see if you can reach an agreement regarding either this amendment or a modification of this amendment, or you may decide that you cannot reach agreement, but I'm going to ask the relevant parties we're going to hold the bill and ask the relevant parties to discuss and get back to us prior to next Thursday's meeting of the subcommittee. Okay, so
I know
that's
I had mentioned, I had
Go
asked
ahead.
the board to talk to, Mr. Doherty. I don't know if that happened or not. What was the result of that?
Dr.
conversation?
Morris and I have spoken. However, I have not spoken directly with the attorneys or the rest of their legislative committee. So we've had conversations. I will admit that this is a policy decision. If you change the law, there isn't free flow into Maryland. So the decision is, do you want a policy where out-of-state dentists can come in to meet their needs and potentially needs in Maryland? Or do you want to have a policy where both things can be accomplished, where our dentists can leave, our hygienists can leave, and others can come in? And I agree with Ms. Elliott, there is that dichotomy, and you've got to make a policy decision between the two.
all right. Well, we'll ask you to continue your conversations and
Yes,
let us
Mr.
know
Chairman, we
prior
will.
to next Thursday. Okay, thank you. House Bill 378, State Board of Dietetic Practice. Council?
So House Bill 378 alters the requirement. Could someone, Marie, maybe mute yourself, Marie Savage? Thanks. The bill alters the requirements for licensure as a dietitian nutritionist from the State Board of Dietetic Practice. Qualified individual must receive at a minimum a baccalaureate degree. The bill updates the name of the Certification Board for Nutritional Specialists, and the name of the American College of Nutrition. There are two sets of amendments that were distributed. Amendment number 393128. It corrects the spelling of dietitian, and rather than requiring an applicant to have a master's degree, it specifies that an eligible applicant have at a minimum a bachelor's degree. And then the second amendment that was distributed is number 86302, and I think I might have missed a number on that one.
1-1.
3021. Yep. And so that amendment specifies that applicants receive a degree from a college or university accredited as required by the Commission on Dietetic Registration.
Okay, is there discussion of the amendments? These are by the sponsor.
Yes, and Marie, if you want to respond, Marie Savage is executive director of the board, so she might have more to comment on this.
Please. And
Thank
then we'll
you.
take Delegate Morgan's question.
Thank you. The board does agree with the amendments. We did work with the association, so we're all in agreement. And Lisa, you're right. The spelling of dietitians with a T isn't Tom, not with a C. So we prefer that language. Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Morgan.
I think my question is more on the bill than the amendment. I didn't know which was more appropriate to ask because I didn't know if the amendment. So are we, if the amendment actually raised the criteria to become or are we doing dietitian?
So this is something I think that happened on the national level. Marie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it's my understanding that the requirements to take the examination are changing. And so that the statute is trying to allow for that.
That is correct.
What is the current law?
The current law requires a bachelor's degree.
So I can't tell.
And that's what the exam requires as well.
Okay,
but
but the
as
bill
of
required a
January
master's
1st
degree.
As of January 1st, 2024, you're required to have a master's degree to take the exam. So what their language though was trying to do in the amendment was to sort of grandfather in people who've are already dietitians and have the bachelor's degree. They'll still be able to continue to practice But because you have to have a master's now to take the exam moving forward, those individuals would have to, you have to have a master's degree to take the exam to get licensed.
Okay.
Does that satisfy you, Delegate Morgan?
I guess my comments are more on the bill. I mean, that seems like a awfully hard requirement to become a dietitian. I mean, am I missing something here, or is this just, because often a matter of policy. I mean, I thought we've been lowering the thresholds, not raising them. And to me, if you're going to raise the threshold from somebody going down a particular career path, you have the chance of maybe excluding somebody that would be, accepted field or something. But I don't know. I'm not sure I know enough about this field to make this decision, I guess.
Can the commission
Is anyone capable of
respond,
filling me in?
or anyone else, to Delegate Morgan?
This is Marie Savage. I'm having a problem with my video. You are correct. This is the national certifying exam that changed the requirement to a master's degree. So the board looks to that exam to license dietitians in Maryland. So our law has to match the national certifying exam. There is grandfathering clause, so that's why we have the amendment that's going to say a minimum. If it said just a master's, we would be concerned that anyone who is previously certified, let that certification lapse, that they would not be able to practice in Maryland. So we want to be able to throw the net large so that we could capture everyone who was once certified, that they would always be able to get licensed in Maryland.
Okay, I appreciate the explanation. I just don't know if I agree with the policy, though. I mean, we're having a national board tell Maryland what we have to do to be a licensed dietitian. I mean, that's what I'm understanding.
I think a lot of other of the boards have national exams or national organizations certify or do different things. It's not specific to the board of.
Yeah, I understand.
So we do have amendments before. Is there any other discussion at this time? Okay, is there a motion on the amendments?
Move the amendments.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and seconded by Delegate Bhandari. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Are you moving both sets, by the way, just so I'm clear? Was that a motion on
The amendment.
393128 and also
Oh, well,
on
there are two amendments.
63021?
Ah. Can I move both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would move both of them.
Moved and seconded by Delegate Bhandari, both amendments to the bill that have been distributed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Is there debate?
No.
No, okay. All those in favor, I think since there is some opposition, I'm gonna ask you to raise your hand. All those in favor of the bill, please electronically raise your hand. If you are in favor of the bill as amended.
Mr. Chairman, may I offer a suggestion? You might want to just do who's in opposition, since there's probably less of us in opposition.
Okay,
than
fine.
in favor.
That's fine. Is there anyone in opposition to the bill as amended? Chair sees only Delegate Morgan. Okay. Bill gets a favorable with amendments. Thank you. House Bill 380, State Emergency Medical Services Board. Council?
This bill prohibits the State Emergency Medical Services Board from requiring as a condition for licensure or certification that an applicant provide proof of lawful presence in the United States or have a social security number or individual taxpayer identification number. The bill also requires the EMS board to require each applicant for a license to either disclose the applicant's social security number or individual taxpayer identification number or provide alternative documentation. I circulated an amendment this morning from the Insurance Administration, who I believe is here. I think I saw Commissioner Lorraine, but can't see right now. There she is. The amendment would also prohibit MIA from requiring proof of lawful presence or a social security number or ITIN as a condition for licensure as an insurance producer or non-resident insurance producer. And in case anyone is wondering, the EMS board would normally go to government operations, but this subcommittee dealt with a similar bill last year, which ultimately passed the General Assembly, that this bill's mirrored off of, which applied this requirement for the health occupations boards, which is why this subcommittee is considering this bill this year.
Okay, is there any discussion of the bill, of the amendment or of the bill?
I would move the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Here's a second. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? No. Motion on the bill as amended.
Move the
You
bill
offered
as
a motion,
amended.
Delegate, or I
Second.
think, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the whole point of this bill is just to remove the license requirement for lawful presence in the country. I thought the whole point of licensure was supposed to protect our citizens. How, if we're removing that, how can we ensure our citizens are still getting one, people that are qualified, and two, people that are properly background checked and wouldn't, be put in harm's way?
The bill doesn't change any of the qualifications or background check requirements for any license. It just says that solely the lawful presence or social security number or ITIN cannot be a condition for licensure. So any other qualifications or background check requirements stay in place. And also any requirements that an employer would have to actually employ you are also still in place.
So they don't have to have an I-10 number either? That's getting removed from the bill?
It's in the bill that they can't require a social security number or an ITIN. Yep.
Is in the bill, do you still require a social security number?
They can't require that as a condition of licensure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Lindsay.
Commissioner Berrain.
I just wanted to point out that while those particular identification numbers would not be required as a condition of licensure, that has nothing to do with what is required as a condition of the receipt of money for employment-related services or on an independent contractor basis, and it does not change any of the tax laws, which would require that at a later point in time. What it does do is it allows people who are looking to be independent contractors to pass the exam before they necessarily go through the next steps in order to be able to receive compensation.
That's great.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Chair sees none. Okay, have the amendments been offered formally? Yes, they have. Okay, all those in favor of the amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the amendment? Okay, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Move the bill as amended. Second.
And it's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, please raise your hand. So there are 3 opposed: Morgan, Riley, Hutchinson. And council, do you have the names of those who are present and voting yes? You're fine. Okay. The bill receives a favorable with amendment. The next bill is State Board of Examiners in optometry.
This bill requires an applicant for an
81.
initial or renewal license or limited license to practice optometry from the State Board of Examiners in Optometry to submit to a criminal history records check. An applicant must obtain a state and national criminal history records check from the Criminal Justice Information System Central Repository. There are two sets of amendments for this bill as well. The first one, amendment number 103320, requires the board to consider specified factors when they're reviewing criminal history record information. And then the second set of amendments, number 363421, clarify that the renewal requirements of the bill only apply to the first renewal application submitted after January 1st, 2026 by an applicant who was initially licensed before the effective date of the legislation.
Is there discussion on the amendments? Is there a motion on the amendments?
Mr. Chair, if I might,
Certainly.
just wanted to ask, are these factors that the board shall consider consistent with other boards that are considering the same thing?
So Delegate Hill said she looked at what the other boards do and they're all slightly different. So she picked the ones. So yes, all of these are required by another board, but it might not, they might be a little bit different.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. I'd move
So
the,
it's,
Oh,
if
I'm
I
s-
may, all are required by other boards, but not all are. All of these are required by some boards, but not all are required. by
Delegate
others.
Hill is here, but I mean.
Okay, fine,
all-
that's better
most
than
of-
me.
I'm pretty sure all of the boards that have criminal history records checks have factors that they consider.
Right.
But it's just with everything with the boards, everything's a little bit different between the boards, so. That's, yeah.
okay, then I would move both amendments.
Second.
Is there a second? There is a second. Is there any discussion on the amendments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone
Aye.
opposed to the amendments? Okay, the bill as amended, is there a motion?
Move the bills amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
No. Bill moves forward unanimously as amended. The next bill is House Bill 425, Advanced Practice Registered Nurse Compact. Council?
This bill enters Maryland into the Advanced Practice Registered Nurse Compact. It establishes specified procedures and requirements for an advanced practice registered nurse to practice under a multi-state license in a party state or a remote state. The composition, powers, and responsibilities of the Interstate Commission of APRN Compact Administrators and requirements related to the oversight, dispute resolution, and enforcement of the compact. The bill is contingent on similar legislation being enacted in 6 other states. There are no amendments on this bill, but I did circulate a letter. There was a joint letter from the Department of Health and the Board of Nursing relating to the fiscal impact of the bill. The fiscal note noted $150,000 in the first year that the compact is adopted for software upgrades for the Board of Nursing. And if you all recall, the legislature passed a bill last session that would transfer operational control of the Board of Nursing to MDH for 2 years, which goes through next July. And so there are 4 other states right now that are members of this compact. In theory, if Maryland and 2 other states were to adopt this compact this year, it could go into effect while MDH has operational control of the board, and therefore that funding would come from MDH. So the letter just says that MDH is basically prepared to absorb that cost for the software upgrade if it does go into effect this year, because the day that this actually goes into effect is not known. And this is a reintroduction of a bill that passed the House last year, 112-21, and the HGO vote was 22-0.
Is there Is there a discussion of the bill?
No.
I think it's a good bill.
Okay. Delegate Bandari.
Yeah, thank you. Briefly, yeah, this is a very good bill, particularly like the bill significantly improved the healthcare access by allowing.
Speak up, please, Delegate Bandari. We can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is very good. This addressed the provider shortage and expansion of healthcare access and strengthen the healthcare staffing, and it fixes some of the emergency department issues, which is wonderful bill.
Thank you. Delegate Hutchinson.
Thank you, Chair. Lindsay, I just want to get a point of clarification. Is this the compact where you have to have at least 7 states to be in it? And I thought you said in your comments that 6 states have passed this. Could you clarify?
No, I'm sorry. So you do need 7 states, which means if Maryland were to adopt it, we would then need 6 other states. So Maryland would be one of the 7. There are 4 that have adopted it now. Those are Delaware, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah. So that was my comment about if Maryland were to adopt this and 2 other states, that would get the total to 7. And if that were to happen this year, that's the funding piece that I was referring to about the funding coming from MDH rather than from the Board of Nursing Special Fund.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move the bill.
Moved and
Second.
seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there anyone opposed? If you are opposed, please indicate with the yellow hand.
Delegate Bandari, put your hand
I don't
down.
think you want to be
You have your
opposed.
hand raised.
Okay. There are two in opposition and council, just to make sure you have the names of those who are voting in favor, present and voting.
I've got Morgan and Hutchinson opposed.
And you know those in favor, just double checking.
Yep.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The bill gets a favorable. House Bill 628, Health Occupations, Clinical Marriage and Family Therapists.
This bill requires the State Board of Professional Counselors and Therapists to waive the education, experience, and exam requirements for licensure as a clinical marriage and family therapist for an applicant that is licensed or certified to practice clinical marriage and family therapy in another state, territory, or jurisdiction. If specified requirements are met, the board may not require the applicant to pass a national certification exam, but may require that the applicant pass an exam of specified state law. And there were no amendments.
Okay. Is there discussion? Is there, council, is this the only bill? Is there another bill on this issue?
Well, we talked about the board bill that separately from that, if that's what you're referring to, the reciprocal
Right.
licensure that you held.
Oh,
House Bill 146. I'm not sure
Right.
if that's what you're thinking of or not.
oh, that bill is being held.
Yes, but
I
this
think
bill
we
is the
should hold-
separate bill that,
We should hold this bill as well
okay.
until we resolve the other bill. About Ms. Katrinik and then Ms. Elliott.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Katrinik on the Board of Professional Counselors and Therapists, and I'm also a marriage and family therapist. This bill is specific to marriage and family therapist. There is a huge crisis for mental health in Maryland. Everybody has a waiting list and people are having a really hard time accessing care. As a board member, when we get lots of applications coming in from other states, it's a very arduous process for people who've been licensed for years. So we just want to streamline the people that have already been in practice. They're still going to be vetted. There'll still be a background check. There'll still be a state exam. But it takes months because of we're understaffed at our board for them to get their license. So that's what this bill is about. And we also wanted to share that there are neighboring states that are also going through the same thing. Virginia has one in the legislation now, and 10 other states are doing this right now in this legislative time. So, we hope for a positive outcome. Thanks.
Robin Elliott.
Delegate Rosenberg, I'm here today on behalf of the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. I think this bill stands on its own and could exist side by side if you decide to pass the other bill, or it could just stand on its own. I don't, the two aren't connected. I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Delegate Morgan.
So just to make sure I understand, this is like lowering the education requirement for a marriage therapist.
No, we're just not asking them to send in their transcripts from their college years that were 30 years ago. They have to have licensed in another state that required 60 credits of a master's degree of an accredited college program. So it's very equal. We would never allow for anything less than that.
Gotcha. I was just wondering if it was in.
It's a
It's
good
just odd.
question. I would think the same thing, but
Yeah, it's just odd. Like dealing with one of the dietitian bills earlier, we're increasing one and then waiving the other.
no, we're not waiving anything. If anything, there are like maybe 3 states that don't have 40 credit master's degree, but mostly all like 46 states in the country do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
yeah, Delegate Bandari.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think this bill, as far as I understood, this proposes to ease the licensure process for out-of-state marriage and family therapists to practice in our state, addressing the mental health provider shortage and by removing barriers and duplicative review process, right? And it requires MTS to meet national standard, undergo a Maryland criminal history check, and pass a state-specific exam. So we are not lowering any standard.
Yeah, well, I'm going to hold the bill until we resolve the other bill, the other related bill. So those are the 2 bills we're holding. Everything else got a favorable. Okay, we are done. Full committee is at 1:20.
Oh, yeah.
So you have 20 more minutes for lunch than you expected.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Second, thank you.
Thank you.